there was an uh, old map, and it's called the Mercader map. And in this Mercader map, it depicts a big black mountain. It's a magnetic mountain there at the center of the Earth, and it's called Rupus Nigra, which means black rock, which is also interesting. If you guys that rings a bell with anyone, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, those companies. But basically, BlackRock, if you guys don't know, they own everything in this world right now. If you don't believe me, go look it up. You'll find out for yourself. BlackRock owns everything. They own all the food companies, the tech companies. So you think you go and you see, like Tesla or something. Oh well, I can't think of that Joker's name right now. Help me out. The Tesla guy.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Yeah, so thank you. So yeah, oh yeah, Elon Musk owns Tesla. No, he doesn't. You go into these certain websites where it shows you all the stocks and stuff, and the very top owner in Tesla it's always these three companies, but mostly it's BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. They own everything. But so at the middle of this map is a big black rock, Rupus Nigra, and in this map there are 4 islands around this magnetic mountain and 4 rivers which flow through this mountain. And what's interesting too in Genesis, when it's speaking about Eden, it talks about 4 rivers flowing from Eden, just like this map has, and one of them being the Euphrates as well. And there's an old myth that's tied to this map. There's a bunch of mountains that are surrounding this big magnetic mountain. So it's smaller mountains, and then you got the big mountain in the middle. And these people were called the Hyperboreans. And you guys can look this up, easy to find. The Hyperboreans lived at the North Pole, and they were said to have lived in a divinely blessed place with moderate weather. It was nice weather over there. So we have this preconceived notion at the North Pole. There's nothing at the North Pole. It's a wasteland. It's so cold. No one will live there. No one would even want to live there. But then you got these old stories where you got these people living at the north with a divinely blessed place, and they worship their God there. Why? Where did this story come from? It's very interesting because we know a lot of times these myths have some validity to them. So just throwing out a bone here, could it be that the Hyperboreans are the camp of the saints dwelling with the Lord their God there in the middle, in the north, and Mount Zion? So if you, me and my wife were even looking at this earlier. If you even Google Mount Zion, it shows you this little tiny hill. It even says it's a hill in Google. And when you read about Mount Zion in the Bible, it's larger than anything around it. It's above all mountains, even, it says. And so another thing is these geological or geographical locations might not even be in the place where we actually think they are. How easy is it to deceive people and say, oh, you live in America, you live in Russia, and so on and so forth. And we have to believe them, right? I mean, we have nothing else to go by. But it's just very interesting.
So since he focused on the Mercader map, I've got a quick little video that I've lined up, edited for time purposes. And hopefully it'll explain what this Mercader map really is all about. And then I've got a special treat for you on the other side of that. So I hope you enjoy what I'm bringing to you.
Check out this map of the Arctic from the 16th century. There are 4 major landmasses surrounding a polar sea with a massive magnetic rock in its center, called Rupus Nigra, Latin words for black rock. If we do a quick search through raremaps.com's massive inventory for more like it, we find dozens of similar depictions. Here is one by Dutch cartographer Cornelis de Jode in 1593, another from one of the founders of the Dutch East India Company, Petrus Plancius, in 1594, and one last example, Abraham Ortelius's 1570 world map in what is considered the first modern atlas. So where did these depictions originate? Just as Terra Australis in the south, this mysterious land to the north can be traced back to ancient Greek writers. It was called Hyperborea, which loosely translates to beyond the north wind. These ancient writers didn't unanimously agree on everything about Hyperborea, including its location, other than it was to the north. One of the legends was that the sun rose and set just once a year, indicating that it was somewhere within the Arctic Circle. Despite this, it was also said to enjoy a moderate climate. Some of its other characteristics included having strong connections to Apollo, and being home to people as tall as 10 feet that could live to be 1,000 years old. It was allegedly nearly invaded by an army of 10 million men from a neighboring island, but the army turned back when they realized the Hyperboreans could not be defeated. That's more than 5 times the number of soldiers that landed in Normandy in the first 3 days of the Allied invasion in World War II, which is generally accepted as the largest seaborne invasion in history. 2,000 years later, there were still stories about a mythical land to the north, though some things had changed. Let's go back to that first map shown, which is the most well-known. It was created by someone you've probably heard of. Even if you don't recognize the name, you're at least familiar with his work. His name is Gerardus Mercator. He's known for his famous projection created for navigation that makes Greenland look like the size of Africa. It's also commonly used in classrooms and by navigational apps like Google Maps. However, as you can see on his world map, it would have been difficult to use for navigation in the Arctic region, though he did make a more accurately depicted Arctic region as an inset. But trade had been increasing over the 16th century between Europe and the East Indies, and it was a long journey between them. The route at the time was south and around Africa. A northeast passage could reduce shipping times to and from the East Indies from 2 years or more to about 6 months. It would also help avoid many hazards such as run-ins with rival nations, wear and tear on ships, tropical diseases, and the still mysterious disease scurvy. 1 in 5 ships and 1 in 3 employees of the Dutch East India Company never came back from the round Africa route. With the growing interest, Mercader dedicated a map to the Arctic, which was actually published by his son Romuald Mercader in 1595, the year after Gerardus' death. It's also the first standalone map of the Arctic region. Mercader, and probably other cartographers going at least as far back as 1492, got their information from a book titled Itinerarium, which was written by Jacobus Noyen. This book summarized a travelogue titled Inventio Fortunata, meaning fortune discovery. This book was by a 14th century Franciscan friar and mathematician who claimed to have explored the region in 1360 on behalf of Edward III of England. Johannes Rouse cited Inventio Fortunata on his 1507 world map. But Jacobus Noyen never actually saw this book. He received this information from a priest who said he had met the author of Inventio Fortunata when the man gave him an astrolabe in exchange for a Bible. Mercader wrote on his world map, "We have taken the Arctic geography from the Itinerarium of Jacobus Noyen of The Hague, who makes some citations from the Gesta of Arthur of Britain. However, the greater and most important part he learned from a certain priest at the court of the King of Norway in 1364. In 1577, Mercader wrote a letter to English astronomer John Dee about the Arctic region and referenced Itinerarium once again. In this letter, he wrote, "In the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool, into which there empty these 4 indrawing seas, which divide the north. And the water rushes round and descends into the earth just as if one was pouring it through a filter funnel. It is 4 degrees wide on every side of the pole, that is to say, 8 degrees altogether. Except that right under the pole there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea. Its circumference is almost 33 French miles. And it is all magnetic stone, and is as high as the clouds, so the priest said, who had received the astrolabe from this Minorite in exchange for a testament. And the Minorite himself had heard that one can see all round it from the sea, and that it is black and glistening, and nothing grows thereon, for there is not so much as a handful of soil on it." The friar also claimed to have encountered pygmies. It's unclear if the original book, Inventio, is the source of this concept about the North Pole. A similar story was written by the historian Gerald of Wales in the late 12th or early 13th century. Here is what he had to say. "Not far from the isles towards the north there is a monstrous gulf in the sea, towards which all sides the billows of the sea, coming from remote parts, converge and run together as though brought there by a conduit. Pouring into these mysterious abysses of nature, they are as though devoured thereby, and should it happen that a vessel pass there, it is seized and drawn away with such powerful violence of the waves that this hungry force immediately swallows it up, never to appear again." By the 1630s, Mercator's depiction of the region disappeared from maps, due to real discoveries and competing theories about the region. Holes in the story were even appearing to Mercator. While the magnetic rock seemed like a somewhat logical explanation as to why a compass would point north, this wasn't actually where the magnetic North Pole was located. Mercator knew this, and tried to explain away the discrepancy by adding a second rock. But it would still be nearly another 300 years of theories, rumors, and lies about the geography of the Arctic.
I hope that helped untangle some of the confusion around what the Mercator map is and what the Black Rock is and the whole magnetic north. I really hope that some history actually helped. Now, I've got a special little treat lined up for you, so let me go ahead and lay that in here, and I'll see you on the other side.
Why are we underground right now, sir? Why can't we be out in the open? Why aren't we in a square right now? Why are we talking to people? Let them know Item 9 exists. Get it out. Shout at the rooftops. This is great. This is the bee's knees, Item 9.
They always say that Santa lives at the North Pole. Why is that? That's just strange to me. Santa Claus lives at the North Pole with his elves. And Santa sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sake. And so he's making a list and he's checking it twice, and he's going to find out who's naughty or nice. I mean, doesn't that sound like weighing out your works, like the Lord does?
Yeah.
And
so, the book of life.
So it's almost as if it could be this satanic inverted thing where, Santa Claus lives at the north end with his elves, and it's like, well, what if the Lord's living in the north with his saints? It's very interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that's the first time you told me that. It really caught my attention because, like, man, Santa's got white hair, a big white beard. Well, that's how God is described in Revelation. Like you said, he's all knowing, right? He knows who's been naughty and who's been nice. He can be all over the world in one night, which makes him omnipresent. And he's got a list and he's checking it twice. Well, that kind of sounds like the books will be judged from, such as the Book of Life, stuff like that. And yeah, it's interesting why they say that Santa lives at the North Pole. It does seem like that's a mock version, a mock version of God.
Right.
They're almost saying God and his elves, which would be God's helpers, and his saints, his angels and his saints, would be at the North Pole. which is interesting because that is where Mount Zion actually is,
Right.
according to my research and yours as well.
Okay, I hope you had as much fun with this video as I did. I was able to keep it pretty short and sweet for you. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, please subscribe if you enjoyed it. There will be plenty more videos like this to come. And remember, stay hydrated, and mental health matters. Be cautious of your sources. Until the next video, take care of yourself.
Everybody wants to